It's time. The moment that was always destined to happen. Maybe, I don't really know, but it's finally time. The Gracious Eva art shop is now open. That's right, I have recently opened my very own Etsy shop. What's on there? Well, I'll tell you. We have poster prints and canvas prints of my artworks, as well as mugs. A lot of the artworks that are featured on these are from videos I've shown on this very channel, and I will keep updating the shop as well. So if there's an artwork from one of my videos that you'd like to see as a product, but I haven't listed yet, let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to add them. Also, if you have any questions about the products as well, let me know in the comments, and I will answer them. And it's not just those things that I'm going to be selling on there. I'll have some other very interesting things listed, as well as perhaps a comic that you might know of. This video will probably play at the beginning of the next few vids of mine, because, you know, gotta advertise and stuff. But I hope that you'll check out the shop, and if you order anything, that you'll enjoy them. But anyway, with that, I'll let you go now. Hello everybody, it's your pal Gracious Eva here, and it's another GL speed paint video this week. This time it's of a fan art drawing. We love some fan art, and this one is of the character heng, specifically heng / Imbabitor Lunae from the game Honkai Star Rail. Also forgive me if I didn't say that name right. I hope I'm saying that name right. But yeah, I've talked about me playing Honkai Star Rail before in the video where I turned 2 of my Genshin Impact OCs into Honkai Star Rail characters. And I wanted to make a fan art for this character design specifically because I really love how it looks. Heng's base design, which looks like this if you haven't played the game before, it looks okay, but this design of his Imbabitor Lunae form I love a lot because it's like everything I like in a design. He's a pretty boy, long hair, always enjoyed that. He has a very ethereal look to him, a very like androgynous look almost, and I do love a good androgynous design. So as you can see, it was kind of inevitable that I would make some fan art of this design. I did try to roll for him when his banner was out, or wish for him. Is it roll or wish in Star Rail? I don't know. I play Genshin a lot too, so I don't know what it's called, but I didn't get him, which is sad, but that's okay. I think, I don't know if I'll re-roll him for him the next time, but that's okay. But as you can see, for this drawing, I decided to go with my painterly style, which, if you didn't know, involves basically me doing the line art with the same brush that I do the sketch work with, and then I put all my clipping layers onto the main folder to do the rendering. And you might have noticed that, wait, why is the line art being played twice? The same line art being played twice. Is this an editing error? Nope. My program crashed in the middle of me drawing, and I forgot to save it, and then I lost like half of my progress of doing the line art. Which is great. It's lovely. Oh wow, we love when that happens. We certainly don't get really upset about that. But it's okay. I was able to redo the line art, and I didn't edit it out because if I have to suffer, I have to tell someone that I was suffering. Not really. I just I didn't edit it out just because to tell you all, if you're drawing, if you're doing artwork like this, please, for the love of God, save frequently. Please save as much as you can. If your thing has like an auto save feature, even better. Please keep that in mind. If it doesn't, though, just save all the time. And you know that I was saving constantly after that crash happened. But yeah, after the line art happened, which added on a bunch more time onto this drawing than probably needed. It wasn't really that much time though. It was a lot of the line art lost, but the main part of it was still there. But after getting the rest of it in, finally, I did all of the fancy hatching shading like I used to do. You'll also notice that with Heng, the way I drew him here, I didn't draw him with all of his details. I didn't draw the coat that he has, the sort of coat that that he wears partially, and some of his belts and stuff I didn't include either. This is because I wanted it to be easier on myself. I just didn't want to draw all of his details. And also, me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the half coat look. I kind of wish they just did the sleeves, the little sleeve cuff that he has on the one arm on both arms. That's just me personally. And also, like I said, MiHoYo designs, not just Genshin ones, it's also Star Rail ones, tend to have a lot of details, and some of them aren't super important. So sometimes I feel like it's reasonable, it's reasonable to not include every single one of them. I hope so. Yeah. Adding in the colors was a bit challenging, especially for his hair. He's got 3 different parts of his hair because it fades at the ends, but then the inside of his hair is also a different color, which also fades, and he has a red streak, I think it's a red streak, on one of his hair strands. So it was a little hard to color in his hair. But after that, I did the rest of his details. The eye makeup was a little tricky to do. I had to go back to the sketch to trace over that because I forgot how I drew them. But yeah, everything else went pretty fine. Again, I was struggling to figure out in coloring which details I wanted to omit and which ones I felt were kind of necessary, like these things on his pants. But yeah, those I eventually figured out what I wanted to keep and what I decided not to draw. And if I did another artwork of him, I might try to add in more design or more of his details, but this is a chill speed paint video, so we are allowed to not do that. And the way I colored his horns, I wanted them to be slightly see-through at the very ends, which is why I kept the layers of his horns on a different layer, because I think that's how it actually is supposed to look in the game. So I tried to emulate that here. For those of you who don't know, spoilers, Heng is revealed to be part of the dragon species in the game lore. I forget what they're called. I have completely forgotten what they're called. But he's one of the dragon species, and in the game we get a secondary form of his, and you can even wish for the secondary form as well. And it's a 5-star. So, but what's funny is that you can have both his 4-star look and his 5-star look in the same team, which I find very funny. As you saw with the eyes, I decided to draw them with split pupils because I always like when dragon designs do that, and I tend to draw people with dragon designs like that. I just think it looks very neat. And for the background here, I went with primarily blue, trying to emulate kind of what his splash art looks like, but with a forest setting instead of this ocean setting that he's got. So I still kept the the yellow moon, which I actually changed to orange later on because I didn't like how the lighting was looking. So I changed it to be more of an orange hue, but everything else stayed the same blue. And yes, I did work way too hard on these trees. And you'll see I was trying my best not to over-render them because I have a bad tendency to over-render my backgrounds, and certain background elements I'll just over-render really hard that I don't need to over-render, especially because at the very end of my process I tend to blur stuff out, so it's really not necessary. So I definitely recommend not to over-render your backgrounds. Do as I say and not as I do. And of course, for the 2 colors that I used to render out Heng, I used a dark blue and a light yellowish orange color. Pretty standard rendering colors that I usually use, but I think they turned out very nice here. And I don't have too much to say for the rendering process since it's pretty standard, keeping in mind that the main light source is coming from behind him, so most of him is cast in shadow. And I did actually end up adding more overlay layers with this one, which I will sometimes do in my Painterly style, sometimes in my main rendering style as well. I will do that. And as you can see here, I am blending out the cell shading that I did, but I do keep the cell shading layer. So I'll copy and paste it, and then paste the cell shaded layer on top of the blended out one, which I'll blend out the cell shading area with a paintbrush to make it look a lot more painterly. And as you can see here, I'm adding in that overlay layer. I think it's overlay. From here, it looks overlay, but it could also be color burn. And of course, adding in some blushing last minute because I always forget to do that first. I always forget to add blushing first. It is a problem. But after I add in the blushing, I add in the color burn layer, which is the same color as the blushing for the skin anyway, but for the rest of him, I just use the same dark blue layer. Now for the eyes were very fun to render because they're dragon eyes and we love to render that. Shading in the scleraris first, and then I go in for the pupils, no, the iris, that's what they're called. These were really fun to render because I did it in a slightly different way. Towards the very end of me rendering out the iris, you'll see that I added in these harsher rays of light. I did this to make his eyes appear a bit more shiny, and then for the multiply layer I put it on top of everything and added in the little dots underneath the pupil that I usually do there instead of the pupil layer that I usually do. But I really like how that ended up looking when I rendered the iris. But then after I rendered his eyes, I went back to rendering Dunhung himself with the slightly light orange yellow color that I was talking about before. So I rendered in his hair first, and then I went and rendered in the metals, which I usually don't blend out too much because I add in the painterly rendering on top of that later. But yeah, I don't have too much else to say for the rendering of Dunhung, so I'll probably let the rest of it play out, and I'll come back whenever I start working on the background. Now for the rendering of the background. Now these trees that are in the very front, that are the darkest color, were originally going to be in the foreground in front of Dunhung, but then I realized the placements of the roots were kind of weird and they were obscuring a lot of him that didn't make sense. So I played around with having the ends of the roots be a light, like fading out, but then I just ended up putting them behind him. For the leaves, the maple leaves, I decided to have them be a blue color instead of the orange one that Dunhung is holding. mainly just as a way to like make that leaf stand out, and so that the center of the artwork is still in the very center where the only source of warm color is, which is the lighting source behind Dunhung, and then Dunhung himself, the lighting on him, and his leaf. And the way I drew the leaf for Dunhung was, I did kind of cheat. You kind of saw me do that. I used the brush that I used for the maple leaves, expanded one of the particles it made, and then just traced over it. It was also here that I was kind of losing it a little bit. I was trying to add in a bunch of effects and stuff, but it was taking a really long time. But I just wanted to try to keep going and try to add some more. But it got into the point where I was kind of hating it. That happens a lot. But I was eventually able to finish it. I added in all the effects I wanted, and I think they all looked great. And I was finally done with it. And once I was done with it, I obviously was a lot happier with it. And I think it turned out really neat. And that's all I have to say for this drawing. Thank you so much for watching this video. Another chill speed paint video down. And yeah, I know that this one and the last one I drew both in my painterly style. I just really like drawing in my painterly style, but also my illustration style. So I'm not giving my normal illustration style up or anything. I just like to go back and forth with it. But yeah, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching again. At the beginning of this video, there probably was my promotion for my Etsy store, which is up now. And if you're watching this video now, I've also posted that video separately, so it's just like its own thing. You can watch that if you want, but you already kind of watched it at the beginning of this, so you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm just saying it's there. It's also there if you want to see it. And yeah, if you want to see this as an art print, let me know. I might make it into an art print. And but of course, all my other artworks are on my Instagram linked below, as well as my comics on my webtoon. And that's pretty much it. So with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.